Listen carefully, because this is something many people only understand when life forces them to wake up. There is a silent lie society keeps repeating, that success belongs only to the young, to the early starters, to those who made it on time. But life does not carry a clock that punishes you for starting late. Life responds to action, not age. Let me tell you something important. The difference between someone who succeeds at 20 and someone who succeeds at 50 is not talent. It is persistence. It is decision making. It is the refusal to accept that time has expired. You see, every day you wake up, you are not aging. You are accumulating experience. And experience, when guided correctly, becomes power. The problem is not your age. The problem is the belief that your age limits you. There are people who start over at 40 and build empires. There are people who discover their purpose at 60 and finally feel alive.
And there are people at 25 who already gave up mentally. So what does that tell us? That success is not written in your birth certificate. It is written in your discipline. Now listen to this with your heart. Failure is not your enemy. Failure is your teacher. Every mistake is a signal that you are trying, that you are moving, that you are still in the game. The only real defeat is stopping. And yes, the mind will resist you. It will whisper, "It's too late. You should have started earlier. Others are ahead of you." But that is not truth. That is fear wearing a mask. And you must learn to silence it with action. Because action is louder than doubt. So today I want you to understand something deeply. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not finished. You are simply at a point where your decision will redefine everything that comes next. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. Not tomorrow, today. Because the moment you move, life moves with you. And remember this final truth. Success has no age, but regret does. Age is not a barrier, it is a mental interpretation that people accept when they stop challenging themselves. The truth is, numbers do not decide destiny, decisions do. When someone says, "I'm too old" or "I'm too young," what they are really saying is, "I have already limited myself before even trying." And that is where life quietly stops for most people. Not because time ended, but because belief collapsed. Think about it. Every skill you admire, every success story you respect, it didn't appear in one moment. It was built step by step, sometimes slowly, sometimes painfully, sometimes after long silence when nobody believed it would work. Yet it still happened because the person refused to let age define urgency or possibility. And listen carefully, your brain does not decline because of age. It declines because of inactivity, because of repetition of fear, because of comfort that slowly becomes a cage. When you decide to learn something new, to start again, to push forward, your mind literally rewires itself. It adapts, it grows, it responds like it was designed to do. That is why a person at 50 can master a new career, and a person at 18 can fail by giving up too early. So stop asking, "Am I too late?" and start asking, "Am I willing to begin anyway?" Because beginning destroys the illusion of age. The moment you act, you prove that time has no control over your courage. And that realization alone can completely change the direction of your life, your identity, and your future. Consistency is the invisible force behind every success story that people mistakenly call overnight. There is no such thing as sudden achievement without silent repetition. What most people see is the result, but they never witness the routine, the discipline, the days when nothing feels exciting and yet the person still shows up. That is consistency. It is not emotional. It is not dependent on motivation. It is a decision that says, "I will continue even when I don't feel like it." And this is where most people collapse. They rely on feelings instead of structure. Listen, motivation will visit you sometimes, but consistency must stay with you always. The real difference between those who succeed and those who remain stuck is not intelligence, not talent, not even opportunity. It is the ability to repeat the right actions long enough for results to appear. Think about a drop of water hitting a stone. It is not powerful, but over time, it creates impact. That is exactly how consistency works. Small actions repeated daily become unstoppable transformation. But the mind will resist it. It will say, this is boring, this is not working, you should quit. And that is the test. Because consistency is not built in excitement, it is built in resistance. When nothing changes immediately, that is where most people give up. But that is also the exact moment success begins forming silently beneath the surface, preparing to reveal itself when you least expect it and least feel like continuing anymore. Your past is a story, not a sentence. It can describe you, but it should never define you unless you allow it to become your identity. Many people carry yesterday like a heavy chain, repeating memories of mistakes, failures, wrong decisions, and missed opportunities as if those moments still have authority over their future. But listen closely, memory is not destiny. Just because something happened does not mean it must continue happening. Life does not punish you forever for one chapter. It waits for you to turn the page. And the moment you realize this, something powerful breaks inside your mind, the illusion that you are stuck. You are not stuck. You are remembering too much and acting too little in the present. Every great transformation begins when a person stops negotiating with their past and starts negotiating with their future. Yes, you made mistakes. Yes, you failed. Yes, you were not ready before. But that version of you is not the version required for your next level. Growth demands separation from old identity. You cannot become new while clinging to what broke you. And I want you to understand this deeply. Even regret has no power unless you feed it with attention. The past does not knock on your door, the mind invites it in. So the question is not what happened to me, but what am I choosing to do now despite what happened? Because the present moment is the only place where change exists. And the second you act differently today, you begin rewriting every chapter that once tried to define you in silence. The mind is the most powerful instrument you will ever possess, but also the most dangerous when it is left untrained. It can build empires in your imagination and destroy your confidence in the same breath. That is why your inner dialogue determines your outer reality more than any external circumstance ever will. Every success or failure first begins as a thought, repeated until it becomes belief, and belief eventually becomes behavior. And this is where most people unconsciously sabotage themselves. They allow fear to speak louder than truth. The mind will always generate doubts. You are not ready. You will fail. Others are better. But those thoughts are not commands. They are suggestions, and you have the authority to reject them. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. And when you understand that distance, you regain control. Training the mind is like training a wild river. It must be guided, not allowed to flood everything in its path. Discipline is not just physical action, it is mental direction. What you repeatedly tell yourself becomes the environment you live in. If you feed your mind limitations, it will shrink your actions. If you feed it possibility, it will expand your courage. And listen carefully. The strongest people are not those who never experience fear, but those who refuse to obey it. Because fear always speaks first, but wisdom must speak louder. The real battle is not outside of you, it is inside your thoughts. And the moment you choose awareness over reaction, you begin to master the very force that either builds your life or quietly breaks it from within. Failure is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that you are in the process of learning something that success requires. The problem is not failure itself, but the meaning people attach to it. Many interpret failure as rejection, as proof that they are not capable, when in reality it is feedback, raw and unfiltered, showing you exactly what needs adjustment. Every strong person you admire has a history filled with moments that look like defeat at the time, but later became direction. You do not grow by avoiding failure, you grow by understanding it, analyzing it, and continuing despite it. Listen carefully. Failure does not break a person, quitting does. Because failure is temporary, but quitting is final in its effect. And the truth is, most breakthroughs come right after the point where most people give up. That is the painful irony of progress. The mind will try to protect you by saying, don't try again, it will hurt less if you stop. But that comfort comes at the cost of your future. Real strength is built when you stay in motion even after disappointment, when you choose to rise again with more awareness than before. Each failure refines your approach, sharpens your understanding, and strengthens your resilience in ways success never could. And if you look closely at your own life, you will realize you have already survived every failure you thought would destroy you. That alone is proof that you are stronger than the moment you are afraid of. So instead of fearing failure, learn to use it as training. Because every attempt is shaping the version of you that is capable of achieving what once felt impossible. It is never too late to rebuild yourself, because rebuilding is not dependent on time. It is dependent on decision. The moment a person truly decides to change, the entire structure of their life begins to shift. Even if the external results are not visible immediately, many people believe reinvention belongs only to the young. But that is a misunderstanding of human potential. Reinvention belongs to those who refuse to surrender to their current version. You are not a finished product. You are still in development, still being shaped by the choices you make today. And listen closely, the strongest comebacks are not built from perfect conditions. They are built from broken moments, when everything feels lost, but the inner voice still says, try again. That voice is not weakness, it is possibility. You can restart your education, your career, your habits, your mindset at any point where awareness meets courage. The only real limitation is the belief that change requires permission from time. It does not, it requires action. And yes, the beginning will feel uncomfortable because identity resists transformation, but discomfort is not a warning sign, it is a growth signal. Every small step you take in a new direction begins to rewrite your identity at a deeper level than words ever could. And if you look at every inspiring life story, you will notice something powerful. At some point, they all chose to begin again when it seemed unreasonable. That decision is what separates regret from renewal, stagnation from transformation, and it is always available right now, in this moment, without delay, without excuse, and without asking permission from the past anymore.